After Putin dominates Trump on Ukraine, Russia gives Iran nuclear shock to USA, E3 sanction snapback. In a stunning escalation of global tensions, geopolitical fault lines deepened this week as Russia delivered what many analysts are calling a nuclear shock to the United States and its European allies. The shock comes in the form of Moscow's unprecedented deepening of nuclear cooperation with Iran, only days after President Vladimir Putin was widely seen as dominating former U.S. President Donald Trump in a heated exchange on the Ukraine crisis. Now, with sanctions threatened and alliances tested, the international community is bracing for one of the most consequential geopolitical showdowns of recent years. The story begins with Ukraine. For months, Russia has been consolidating its battlefield position, pressing forward despite U.S. weapons supplies to Kyiv. The Trump-Putin exchange, during a high-profile televised forum, quickly became symbolic of shifting power balances. Trump's tough rhetoric about standing with Ukraine until victory was countered sharply by Putin, who dismissed Western strategies as unsustainable and declared that Russia would not back down under any pressure. Observers noted that Putin's body language, firm articulation, and unshaken stance during the exchange left Trump on the defensive, with headlines across Europe and Asia framing the Russian leader as having dominated the moment. But the real shock came shortly afterward. Intelligence leaks confirmed that Russia has moved to provide Iran with advanced nuclear technology and logistical support. These developments have been described by Western security officials as a deliberate provocation designed to corner Washington and destabilize its sanctions strategy. Already under enormous pressure due to ongoing wars in Ukraine and rising tensions with China, the U.S. now faces the alarming prospect of Iran significantly advancing its nuclear capabilities with Russian backing. At the heart of the crisis is the E3, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, three European powers that have been central to the Iran nuclear deal framework, known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA. For years, the E3 worked with Washington to keep Iran's nuclear program restricted under strict monitoring. But Russia's latest move threatens to render those agreements obsolete. In retaliation, European officials are already preparing a snapback of sanctions, a measure that would reimpose previously lifted economic penalties on Tehran in an effort to curb its ambitions. Iran, however, is showing little sign of backing down. Officials in Tehran hailed the Russian support as a strategic breakthrough, insisting that Iran has the right to pursue peaceful nuclear technology. But behind the diplomatic statements, Western analysts warned that the collaboration could pave the way for dual-use nuclear capabilities. Advances in civilian technology that can also accelerate the development of military nuclear weapons. The White House has reacted with alarm. Senior U.S. officials described Russia's actions as reckless and irresponsible, accusing Moscow of deliberately inflaming tensions in an already volatile Middle East. Russia is playing with fire, one Pentagon spokesperson said, adding that the U.S. will be coordinating closely with NATO and the E3 on next steps. Meanwhile, European capitals are scrambling to prepare for the sanctions snapback mechanism. Under the terms of the JCPOA, if one signatory accuses another of significant non-compliance, they can trigger a process to restore sanctions within 30 days. Diplomats in Paris, Berlin, and London have already signaled their readiness to take this step if Iran continues to advance its nuclear work with Russian assistance. Markets have responded nervously. Oil prices spiked sharply as traders braced for potential disruptions in Persian Gulf shipping lanes and renewed conflict in the region. Analysts also warned that sanctions could hit global trade at a fragile time, with Europe already facing energy insecurity and inflationary pressures due to the ongoing Ukraine war. Geopolitically, the move signals a dangerous convergence of interests between Russia and Iran. Isolated by sanctions, Moscow sees Tehran as a key ally in challenging Western influence, while Iran views Russia as a critical partner to bypass international restrictions and accelerate its nuclear ambitions. This partnership, once thought unlikely due to historical rivalries, now appears to be solidifying into a strategic alliance with potentially global consequences. The U.S. faces a difficult dilemma. On one hand, Washington must reassure its allies and enforce red lines against nuclear proliferation. On the other, it must avoid overextending itself amid simultaneous challenges in Ukraine, the South China Sea, and the broader Middle East. Critics of the Biden administration have already accused it of being too reactive rather than proactive, warning that America risks being caught off guard by Russia's bold moves. China's role also looms large in this unfolding drama. While Beijing has not directly commented on the Russia-Iran nuclear collaboration, analysts believe China quietly supports any move that distracts and weakens the U.S. position globally. With its vast economic ties to Iran and long-standing partnership with Russia, China could emerge as a silent beneficiary of this geopolitical shift. The implications for Israel are particularly severe. Israeli officials have repeatedly declared that they will not allow Iran to develop nuclear weapons, vowing to take preemptive action if necessary. With Russia now providing advanced technology and diplomatic cover to Tehran, Israel's security establishment is reportedly on high alert, assessing potential military options. This raises the possibility of a wider regional conflict that could draw in the United States and NATO. As the situation escalates, calls for diplomacy are growing louder. The United Nations has urged all parties to exercise restraint and return to the negotiating table. Yet, with trust between Washington, Moscow, and Tehran at an all-time low, few believe meaningful talks are likely in the near future. Instead, the world seems to be inching toward a dangerous new phase of nuclear brinkmanship. In the end, the current crisis highlights the interconnectedness of global conflicts. What began as a standoff over Ukraine has now expanded into a nuclear flashpoint involving Iran, Russia, and the West. Putin's maneuvering, first asserting dominance in debates over Ukraine, then delivering a nuclear surprise via Tehran, shows a deliberate strategy of stretching US and European resources thin. Whether this gamble pays off or backfires remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: the geopolitical landscape has been shaken. As sanctions loom, alliances shift, and nuclear risks grow, the world enters a period of heightened uncertainty. Analysts warn that without urgent de-escalation, the coming months could see dangerous miscalculations with consequences far beyond the borders of Ukraine, Iran, or Russia. This is not just another chapter in great power rivalry, it may be the prelude to a far larger crisis.